Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Hall Podcast. My name is Will Schwarz, and I'll be the guest host today. Today, we have Alasdair Reid from UA Local 324 on Vancouver Island. Welcome to the Hall. Hey, Alasdair, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, yeah, that's it's a real pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So, UA Local 324, Vancouver Island. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure to be back here at 170. This is the site of the 2009 apprenticeship competition there. So
I was wondering how long it would take you to get to that.
Yeah,
we're like 10 seconds in already.
No, absolutely,
I love that.
right? Yeah.
So 2009, let's start there.
So 2009, I got to come over here to Vancouver to your brand new facility at the time there, and compete at the apprenticeship competition there, and I don't know, it was a great experience there, so had a lot of fun doing that, and then obviously through the years I get to meet some folks from over here, including yourself there. So
so a little bit of backstory there. 2009 was the Western competition, UA Western Regional Apprentice Competition.
That's right.
And then later on, you came back for the national competition.
That's right.
So you were the plumbing competitor and made your way all the way to Ann Arbor.
That's correct. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. How was that experience?
Life changing, I gotta say. No, it was a really positive experience there. Had a lot of fun doing that. Had a lot of really great support from some of the instructors, some of the other competitors, and that sort of thing, right? And it's hard to believe that's already almost 14 years ago now. So
no kidding.
It's been a lot of fun though. Had some fun training some other competitors in the years since, and I don't know. It's like I say, it is life changing there, but all for the better.
Excellent. What would you say to our apprentices nowadays? You know, I know within 170 we have a common issue trying to get apprentices to take part. A lot of them, for whatever reason, don't want to. What would you say to those apprentices that are on the fence about taking part in apprentice competitions?
Well, I think for me, what it really did was it sort of helped me to understand like how big this organization is. Sometimes when you're an apprentice on a job site, you can kind of feel a little bit like you're in your own little microcosm. But obviously when you come to a competition, even the Westerns there, you start to meet some people from other locals from the Western side of the country there. And then, when you get to the nationals, you're meeting people from all over the country there, and a lot of people having very similar experiences to your own throughout their apprenticeship. And then, obviously the big stage was Ann Arbor there for the international competition, and again, you're meeting people from all corners of the continent there, right? So it kind of really started to help it sink in how huge this organization is, and again, just like how much support there is for apprentices out there, and how much is basically invested in training our new members and apprentices and that sort of stuff, as well as our journey persons. So
excellent. That's great. Yeah, it's a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah, really is. Yeah. So
excellent.
Yeah, and you make some you make some friends along the way, right?
A couple here and there. Yeah. So speaking of which, what are you out here doing in 170 this week?
So again, just sort of grabbing the bull by the horns there. Taking a little bit of initiative there, you end up getting roped into doing some training and that sort of stuff along the way. I'm here this week doing some technology training. We're trying to set up some projects there for members to work on there to get them more familiar with using a robotic station. We're playing with all kinds of gizmos this week though. We got 3D scanners here, got the robotic stations, playing around a little bit with some software as well too. So
excellent.
Really kind of an exciting time, I think, for people in the trade there to see sort of technology become part of what we do.
What and I know from your background being, and for those that don't know, you're a full-time instructor at 324. You're part of the JTC committee for training.
Yep.
Father, husband, all those other roles and
Yeah,
titles
it's
that
busy.
come in.
Yeah.
Before you were a full-time instructor, you were hands-on with this equipment out in the field, right?
Yeah. So, took a little bit of convincing there for me to make the case there for investing in this stuff. Obviously, the equipment's got a fairly hefty price tag associated with it, but for all intents and purposes, it was really more so just about sort of making the argument that this is where the industry's going, and I think a lot of owners like to hear, accuracy and, inefficiencies being improved upon. That sort of stuff was a pretty easy argument to make. It's a pretty steep learning curve, obviously. There's, it's not the kind of thing where you just pick it up and start running with it and, within a couple hours you're an expert there. So, I mean, there's a fair bit of stuff that goes on, but, you're starting to see them more and more on construction sites, not just our trade, but with, electrical, carpentry, all that kind of stuff. So,
what's, I guess with that, like, where do you see this going, in the next 2, 3, 5 years? What technologies do you see really becoming prevalent on the jobs?
Well, I think the robotic stations are going to become, pretty much a mainstay there, in whatever shape that takes, right? I mean, there's some talk of using the HoloLens a little bit more than like prism bowls and that sort of thing. But, as far as accuracy goes, two people on a tape measure is, sort of the way of the past. I mean, it's more of a verification tool, I think, going forwards. But I think you're just going to start to see more and more of this, right? And I mean, I've made the case from day one that, people that are, afraid of it taking jobs away from members and stuff like that. I think it's one of those things that is just going to improve our working conditions where you're not doing as much rework and have a little bit more confidence in the fact that what you're putting in is where it's supposed to be, and you don't need to strip it out and do it again. So
absolutely, that's a great point. So, little background on 324. How many members do you guys have?
We've got just under 1,100 members at the moment there. Actively trying to grow that membership there. So, I'll put a little plug out there for that one there.
Not here.
Yeah. But no, I mean, we're a growing membership, and we got a lot of exciting projects on the go right now, as well as some ones coming up there. There's some pretty big infrastructure projects there. The Camosun Hospital's coming up here. It's going to be a big one there. I mean, it's just it's nice and it's exciting to see that right now. Like, I think Victoria is almost kind of hitting that point where it becomes self-sustaining. I think 10, 15 years ago it was probably a little bit more of the subject to the highs and lows of the economy there, but I think what I've seen in the last 15, 16 years there, it's starting to take on its own shape there. And obviously housing continues to be an issue in our province there, so we're still seeing lots of development in terms of high rises and living spaces and stuff like that being built. But we're also, like I mentioned, the hospital there. We just completed the wastewater treatment plant downtown, like sort of Victoria area there. Just a whole bunch of stuff like that. There's obviously a fair bit of work there, shipyards with government ships and that sort of thing. So, no, it's a good time to be a plumber on Vancouver Island or a pipe fitter on Vancouver Island for sure.
Absolutely, that's great.
Yeah,
excellent. So, your day-to-day around 324, like we said, you're a full-time instructor. You work at Camosun.
Yep.
What do you teach? What do you do? What's your day like?
I would say that for the first part of the time that I was at Camosun there, I was doing mostly foundations programs there, so that was a lot of fun there. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I enjoy about teaching now, actually, is just having the time to kind of help students, learn the trade there. When you're in the field, obviously things are fairly fast paced, and it doesn't allow for a lot of time to be able to just kind of take somebody aside and give them a little bit of assistance, whereas like when you're teaching full time, you're able to do that with some of the students. So started off with the foundations, and that's everything from obviously learning how to use a skill saw to first time
reading a tape measure.
Reading a tape measure as well too. But a lot of them are experiencing like things like threading and soldering and some of those pipe trade skills for the first time, right? So it's a number of years ago now, but I still remember how exciting it was for me when I was learning that sort of stuff. So like it's kind of nice to see that come full circle now. But yeah, in the last, I would say, 12 months or so, I've started to do more of the level 2 and level 3 apprentice courses there.
Nice.
And again, lots of fun there. Start to get into a bit more of the code and just more specialized systems and that sort of thing. And yeah, it's really, I think the funnest part about the whole thing there is now that I've been there for a couple of years, it's been to see like some of the same faces that completed foundations coming back around through to doing their second and third years. So
that's great.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So what would be your favorite part of teaching? Would that really be it? That ongoing contact? Or
the ongoing contact and like just that seeing that progression, right? Like like some of these students that come into the foundations program, much like myself, like I came in with very little construction background, right? And it's really cool to see them, especially if they're struggling at first, to start to put the pieces together and just become really complete tradespeople, right? And have a real understanding there, and just help them sort of discover a passion as well too, right? So
that was always my favorite, being able to see the light bulbs come on when they're working on something and they can't get it, or they're having a tough time, when they're finally able to grasp whatever it is that they're trying to figure
absolutely
out,
like you can just see that aha moment, right?
Exactly.
So I think that's probably one of the best things. And I think like the other thing too is like sometimes when you're doing a course for the second or third or fourth time, like the content doesn't change that much, but the one thing that does change with every class is the dynamic, right? So sometimes you get a group in there that's got a pretty good sense of humor. Sometimes you got a group with a bunch of really keen, interested learners and that sort of thing. So I mean, try to keep it as positive as possible there with a lot of that stuff. But I mean, for the most part, just have a great experience there with my classes. And the nice thing too about the pipe trades at Camosun is we keep our classes pretty small there as well too. Like, I mean, we're really about 16 students per class there. So you do get to, after 7 or 8 weeks with the groups there, you get to know most of them pretty comfortably, right? So
yeah,
it's good. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Excellent. What I guess you don't have to dig too far back, but reminiscing, what do you miss most about being out on the tools?
I think for me, like it's and I think that's I'll go right back to foundations there. It's like one of the specialized projects there was just like starting with nothing, basically, like just a studded wall sort of thing, doing some layout, starting to throw some pipe in. And I mean, really, that's what I love about the trade there is like I'd done office work prior to getting into the trade, and you just kind of feel like a bit of a cog in the wheel sometimes there, where things are just coming onto your desk and you're pushing them off your desk sort of thing. Whereas like in construction, you get to really just sort of start with nothing. Some cases you're starting on a bare lot, right? And then, a couple months later, a couple years later, whatever it is, you end up with a fully functional building. And I think that, again, like that's one of those things that's great about being a plumber, is that you're there from the first stick of a pipe going in the ground to, commissioning and bringing things online, occupancy, all that kind of stuff. And it's just seeing that stuff progress along and just having that sense of pride in what you do, knowing that, you're providing water and drainage and everything like that to people and doing a good job of doing that, right? So I'd say that's what I miss the most about doing that is the actual installs, and working with some of the members as well too. I think that's one of those things that miss hanging out with the lunchroom banter sometimes, right?
Absolutely.
So,
yeah. No, that's great. I mean, I know you're heavily involved in your home local 324.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. The last time that we saw each other in person was probably convention back in Calgary a couple of years ago. What was it? Last summer, the summer before?
Yeah, I guess that would have been. Is that 2021? Yeah, 2021.
So
yeah.
what your involvement with your home local? What type of things are you involved in?
Well, yeah, so I got, I don't want to say roped into being on the training committee pretty early on. I started off like doing the finance committee at my local. which I think is really kind of a good entry level spot there for a member getting interested in sort of how the local operates there. You start to see like sort of some of the expenditures that like what it takes really to keep a hall running. I think it's one of those things that gives you a bit of an awareness there for how a local sort of goes, and then from there I got involved with the like executive board and training committees and stuff like that. Started teaching some things like math upgrades, working towards like doing the medical gas course and a few of those other little sort of bits and pieces and that sort of thing that come along. I think the medical gas thing was, again, the experience doing that was really kind of what sunk my teeth into doing some like full-time instructing, right? Like that was sort of my first taste of having like a prolonged, because that's a 5-week course there, right? So you get to, again, meet some people and get to know them over the course of those 4 or 5 weeks there, right? So that was a really good experience. But over time, like I say, become involved with our building society, become involved with our joint conference board or executive board, doing things like negotiations and all those good fun things that happen along the way. But no, I think it's one of those things that you only spend more time sleeping in a day than you do working for most of us, right? So I think it's one of the reasons why I was pretty keen to get involved with the hall is, work is a big part of your life, right? Mm-hmm. And so wanted to have a bit of a say in how that everyday occurrence happened.
Well, I think, it goes beyond work day to day when you talk about what our unions do. It goes much more beyond just a 9 to 5 or something
100%,
like that.
yeah.
So what, for new apprentices coming up, do you have any tips? Do you have any recommendations? Do you have any advice?
Yeah, yeah. Now that we're long in the tooth here, it's pretty easy to come up with some advice. I think get involved, right? Like, with so many things in life, you get out of it what you put into it, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I think that's one of the great things about our hall as well too, is we have a fair number of sort of extracurricular activities there. We have our golf tournament. We have children's Christmas party, which might not appeal to every member, but it's
not yet. But
no, exactly. Like it's been one of those things that's become a big part of like what my kids look forward to at Christmas time as well too. And we do a ski trip. Try to do things like fishing derbies and that sort of thing, right? So. Getting out to attend those things makes it much more viable for us to put them on. But yeah, like I think it's a good way to sort of like those are the people that you're going to work with. Those are your colleagues, and I think that's a really important thing to sort of realize as well too, is that it's a fairly small industry, despite there being a fair number of us there. It never hurts to do those sorts of things and build a little network there for going to work and knowing some faces in the room and that sort of thing, right? So no job lasts forever, really, right? So
the second you start it, you're working yourself out of it.
Absolutely, right? That's what we do. So yeah,
that's great.
Yeah.
So 5-10 years from now, where do you see yourself?
Probably still teaching. Knock on wood there. Yeah. Hopefully that hasn't been replaced by things like Chat GPT and that sort of thing. But no, I honestly, I think that's kind of one of the things in our industry that is probably one of the safest from being replaced by AI and that sort of thing, right? Like I think it's one of those things, and maybe I'll eat my words, but I think it's one of those things that it still requires a lot of hands-on technical skill to be able to do what we do, and for that reason, I think we're going to be training people for years to come. But yeah, I'd like to see a nice mix of teaching and as well exploring some of these new technologies and that sort of thing. Like that's the thing that fascinates me, right? Like I honestly, like in 17 or so years of doing this, I've just seen the evolution of this happening, and I mean from the types of materials that we're installing for buildings, going from more sort of the traditional steel and cast iron and copper and that sort of stuff to seeing a lot of the plastics and that sort of thing right now. Like there's no question about it. Our industry is ever evolving, and I think that's kind of what I get excited about still is just seeing that evolution of our trade and being able to adapt to that sort of thing. And I hope, going to that 10 to 15 years from now, I hope I still have that same excitement for it, right? Because I think that's one of those things that, if you keep an open mind and that sort of thing, it can take you to new places, right? So
Absolutely. Very well said.
yeah, thanks.
10 to 15 years. Yeah, you're going to be about, 65 by then, right?
Not far off it there, thanks, man. But
Nothing wrong with that. But,
no,
You're
absolutely.
going to be closing in on a strong UA pension at that point. So.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. I've talked to my wife, and I think like just in the 2 years of being an instructor full time and that sort of stuff, like, I think there was a time in my life where I was really looking forward to retirement, but I don't necessarily feel like an urgency to retire. Like I say, it made a little bit easier when you enjoy what you do coming to work. And I mean, if that's an option, then we'll see what it has. I've got 2 young kids, and we'll see how far that pension's going to go there. But that's one of those things that's really really tough to predict, right? I mean, all I can hope for is that continued good health for me and my family there, and like really just enjoying those 15 years. I've seen how fast these first 16 or 17 years go, and I'm not in a big rush to get there by any means. So
absolutely. So busy man at work, instructing, taking part in your union. What do you do outside work?
Well, just like I say, I got a couple of young kids there, so I'm really all about sort of helping them have as many experiences as they can. I had a pretty good childhood there, so really try to make sure that they get to have some of those experiences. So we try to do a little bit of traveling. We spend a lot of time camping in the summer. We kind of lucked out. We hit the jackpot. We bought a travel trailer just before COVID, and that ended up being just about the only thing you could do for a couple of years there. So we had some hesitation when we first bought the thing, because my son was only about 2 years old, and we were kind of worried about how much we'd have to chase him around and worry about him, falling in the fireplace or anything like that. But I think there's only been a couple of things in my life that I've never regretted, and that's one of them there. That we bought that thing, and it's made so many great memories, and obviously we live in a pretty special place there. So lakes, rivers, ocean, forests, that sort of thing. Like, we love getting out in our trailer there and doing some camping. This time of year, obviously winter time, we like to hit the slopes a little bit there, and it's been pretty exciting here just in the last little bit, because my son's 6 now, and both him and my 11-year-old daughter there are both fairly competent skiers now, so it's kind of nice. A little bit worried in 2-3 years there when they're heading out onto the slopes on their own, because Dad won't be able to keep up, but such is life, right?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Alasdair, I want to thank you again for not just coming on the podcast today, but coming out to Local 170, offering the training for our members, helping our sister locals out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thanks again.
Yeah, no, it's been my pleasure. Thanks very much for having me, Will.
Excellent. This has been episode 15 of the Hull Podcast. Please like and subscribe.